I don't know, to be able to find a creative partner of that caliber and that kind of brilliant, he's such a brilliant storyteller and such a wild imagination. It's work that never feels like work. It's just always fun. It's just like working with your best friend.
Hello everyone, I'm Dustin Richardson from the Burbank International Film Festival, and today we continue our real conversations with special guest Greg Ruth. Greg is the New York Times bestselling author of The Lost Boy and has worked on many books and comics, including Our Enduring Spirit with Barack Obama, and both incredible graphic novels, Indeh and Meadowlark, with his very close friend, Ethan Hawke. Not only is he an amazing author, he is an extraordinary artist, illustrating countless projects, including book covers and interior illustrations, DVD and Blu-ray jacket designs, billboards, magazines, newspapers, and screen-printed posters. His clients include Disney, Marvel, DC Comics, Netflix, A24, and Warner Brothers, and so many more. I'm a fan of both his crafts, and I'm very excited to be talking with him today. Hello, Greg. Thank you so much for joining me for a conversation. How are you?
I'm good, Dustin. How you doing?
I'm doing great. So I'm very interested in your work as an illustrator, and I was wondering if you could share with us a little bit about how you became a professional in this field to be working on so many fantastic and different projects.
Time and tenacity, I guess, is the short answer. I've been doing this a long time since, I graduated from Pratt in '93 in Brooklyn and started kind of working on this stuff in earnest right after. So I think it probably was within a year or two I started. I come from comics initially, so most of my stuff at the beginning was I had started working with Lou Stathis over at Vertigo at DC. I was in New York, so it was easy to kind of run up town to meet. And this is 93, 94, this is pre-internet, this is pre-anything. We were faxing stuff back and forth at best. It was all hand delivery. And so it was a little bit different in those times. So any kind of advice or wisdom for how I came up is probably on par with as useful as someone telling you how best to get a Stagecoach mail delivery system in place these days. But I had always done a lot of comics work, and I started out doing some small projects and stuff of my own. I was working with my good friend Spencer Lamb on some of the Matrix comics when the first film came out, and they wanted to do more comics work on the website. So we were able to kind of expand the world and come up with our own stories and our own takes on things, working with the Wachowskis and production company, kind of getting stuff up online. And that was early days of that kind of interaction between film and artists. They were really tip of the spear of this new thing that is now pretty commonplace these days. Fast forward to now, studios are even starting to develop their own kind of alternative movie posters for their own films. A24 and Netflix, they're all starting to kind of get on board with this kind of thing. I just did a thing for Lionsgate as well for a steelbook. So I think trying to make physical media of film something valuable and precious is kind of the new thing, which is great. It's certainly great for me, for sure. I love movies and it's great to dive into it. Certainly the Criterion collection has been one of my all-time greatest gifts to work for. I'm doing another one for them right now, actually. I just can't get enough of that stuff. And doing a lot of LP work lately as well through Mondo and Death Waltz, doing tons of soundtrack work. We just did a bunch of Dune LPs, and they're just kind of letting me run wild with concepts and idea. We're getting stuff through that I would have never expected to get through, the kind of committee system that you got at these studios. So it's been an interesting time for sure.
That's awesome. Yeah, I absolutely love all the exclusive artwork that comes out, either with like the posters, like you said, or the different, like the steel books. I love steel books. I think those are so cool.
No, I know all this stuff. I mean, being able to, and I think that they're really throwing budget money at production quality, I think, is a way to make owning something matter more, having a physical thing mean more than just having a literal physical copy of something you can stream, but having something that is in and of itself its own experience. That seems to really be the goal. And so it's really rich ground for being able to do a crazy die cut thing, or having this Lionsgate thing is going to be amazing. The way the kind of plastic card interacts with the artwork and changes it, the way we've done it, it's just a blast. It makes getting it and opening it, the whole thing becomes part of the experience in very kind of endemic and of a piece, if you're doing it right, with the film that you're kind of doing the work for. So it's a lot of fun, to be sure.
You mentioned Dune already, and I know you really liked that, but was there any other favorite projects you were a part of? Was that one of them, Dune?
Dune was great. I mean, I've been a big Dune person since I first read the novel when I was 13. There is no way to describe what a great turnabout it is to get to work with everyone on that, to interact with Hans Zimmer and Denis. It's just, there are dream. I've had a lot of dream projects that I kind of still can't reconcile with that. I would, if I was a kid, if I went back in time and told myself that I'd get to be doing this stuff, he would have just punched me in the face as a liar. There's just no way. I mean, Indeh was amazing. I'd grown up down in Texas, as Ethan was down there as well. And we both grew up with so many native stories as part of our lives coming up, and didn't really realize, as many, I think, wide eyes do later, that the stories that we grew up with were the shitty ones. And that we needed to kind of get educated to things. It was such an opportunity to kind of work with the community and interact with just the entire lore and that part of our American history, which we have a very hard time reconciling with even today. So that was a real honor. The stuff for Criterion has been unbelievable. Notorious was one of the first films that it was the first Hitchcock I ever saw, and it just absolutely, captured me at 10 years old. It just blew my mind. I fell in love with Cary Grant and Ingrid Bergman, and have been, infatuated with both of them ever since. So being able to do Notorious for them was a gift beyond counting. I loved working with Neon and Bong on Parasite, and then Memories of Murder. One of the real, I don't even know where to stop. There's stuff I'm doing now. I'm doing some more work for Neon. I'm doing an enormous amount of work for Mondo and Death Waltz on some LPs that I can't talk about. I wish I could, but they're going to be amazing. The stuff that we're doing for them now will make even that recent Dune LP look like a walk in the park. It's hard to list. Working with Ethan, I think, has been one of the highlights. He's been we've become real friends. It's like family now. And being able to, to be able to find a creative partner of that caliber and that kind of brilliant, he's such a brilliant storyteller and such a wild imagination. It's work that never feels like work when we're together breaking the story, or we're working on something, or developing anything that we're doing. I did an LP design for a soundtrack for his first directed film, The Hottest State. And it's just always fun. It's just like working with your best friend on projects. It doesn't feel like, the kind of job like that. So it's hard to draw a line. It's hard to pick favorites. I won't do the Sophie's Choice thing.
Yes, don't.
I'm bad at that.
No, I hear you. It is hard because everything, you put so much into it, and everything's such a different experience. I mean,
it is. It's been nice not doing like gigantic big projects like another graphic novel at the moment, just because those things take so many years of being devoted singularly to one thing. It's been a lot of fun this last year, just being able to hop from crazy dream project to dream project, and to see them, put them to bed and then pick up another one and run. It's a little overwhelming. I'm running about 6 simultaneously right now, so my head aches from it. But it's an uptown problem, to say the least.
You have a dog.
I do. Let me see. Birdie, up.
Can we say hi? Oh, hello.
Yeah, he's my studio partner. I think he's telling me that there's somebody outside that needs barking at. I'm not paying attention. No, you'll have to wait. Be a good boy and stay here. Yeah.
Oh, what a good partner.
Yeah, he's all right.
You write together?
He's still only 9 months, so he's not quite there yet.
Oh, wow. Oh, well, great. Well, he can hang out with us. I really, really love how all your work, it looks so realistic. It almost looks like an actual photograph sometimes. I mean, pretty much all of them. I mean, sometimes when I was reading Meadowlark, I just kept thinking like, oh my God, this is fantastic. It looks, especially because you have one of the main characters being like played by Ethan Hawke. That's an illustration. Yeah, I love that. I think that's so great.
Oh, thanks. There was a funny story with that one. We were talking about Meadowlark. The boy is really largely rooted in our experiences with our own kids, his, Levon, my, Emmett. And he certainly looks more like Emmett than anyone else, for sure. But I was having a really hard time picturing Jack, the dad, and we really were going round and round and round. And he had just gotten off of shooting Magnificent Seven and had this big long beard that he had grown. And he was in the process of shaving it off. Like anybody who grows a big beard for anything, you kind of have fun, whether you want to carve a monkey tail or do something ridiculous before you completely get rid of it. And he had carved everything off with this handlebar mustache and sent me a selfie. And it was like a slap in the face. I just started, I spit all the coffee through my nose, and I immediately was like, that, you're him. We're going to base it on you. And I don't know that he knew seriously that I was actually going to follow through with that until the pages started coming in. And then it was really wild and fun. It was interesting. I've drawn Ethan a lot prior to that anyway. So I had a pretty good handle on him, and I had, of course, access if I needed. We spent a lot of time together on that. So that was fun. Yeah, no, I'm glad the way that worked out. And there's some really very cool news regarding that book coming. I'm not quite sure I can speak to it yet, but.
Oh, cool. Well, nice. I look forward to hearing what that is, because I absolutely loved that book. I thought it was fantastic.
Okay, thank you.
Could you talk just a little bit more about your relationship with Ethan on making a piece like this? Like, how do you balance out the work together? Because you're both involved with both illustrations and the writing process, correct?
Well, he doesn't do any art. Yeah, he doesn't do the artwork, but he kind of takes at that. Once we get into principal page making, he'll take a back seat a little bit in a more editorial stance with regards to how the art looks, making it work and function. He'll be the first reader, of the piece. So it really helps. I think I started to realize, I think it was The Lost Boy that taught me the value of writing a fully drafted out, very detailed comic script as if you're handing it to another artist to do it. It always struck me as a little bit duplicative and stupid to do it for yourself. I had originally written The Lost Boy as I was drawing it, which basically meant we had, oh my God, there must have been 60 or 70 pages of art for that book that never saw light of day because editorially it wasn't working with the stereo, or we made changes and stuff got discarded. It's a very clunky way to make a book and make it work as well. I mean, what I thought was a restriction actually ends up becoming a kind of fences make freedoms kind of moment. When you have a script that's down there and it's detailed and set, it doesn't mean you're enslaved to it unless you want to be. Especially if you're also the artist. I'm much less obligated to please the writer if I'm also the writer. So the first thing that we would do is Ethan and I would spend a lot of time talking and just working through characters and talking about stuff that we think would be cool, or coming up with dialogue or emailing back and forth. A lot of Meadowlark broke with us kind of hollering at each other across the aisle on airplane flights when we were on book tour for Indeh. We developed most of that in the back of, cars being driven to events, or, in an airport at 3:00 in the morning, just talking about the character and what does this do? And what would this happen? And if we broke it this way, and he's got such an absolutely insanely brilliant mind in terms of organizing storytelling and making those kind of effective decisions. Most of our interactions beginning is entirely vocal, and we're both clicking away on our laptops trying to put stuff down. I think then after that, it's always a little bit different each time. Meadowlark had us going back and forth, doing versions of a script and sending it back and forth and doing edits on one part while the other one wrote the next, and kind of doing those handshakes. And a lot of it was also just going to Brooklyn and sitting in his office and kind of just spending hours and hours and hours writing and walking around and acting out scenes and getting into arguments with each other that are supposed to happen on the page to see how they work in terms of natural flow and dialogue and making sure everything locks up with characters. And so we spent a good year or two just doing that and writing that script. And once that gets locked in and done, and then turned into a publisher and then edited and approved and all that stuff, I'll then start in on the artwork. And that's when Ethan then has to take a kind of a more editorial approach to things. And I tend to try to keep turn-ins to a scene at a time. So like the scene where Jack goes to pick Cooper up from his house and then has to get on the phone and realizes that he has to go and bring him to work. And, that whole moment that happens is about 5 or 6 pages. I'll just do that block and then I'll send it to Ethan. And oftentimes by now he's on set. So he'll get the email, and then in between shoots, or if he's in the trailer, he'll be on set looking at stuff, and then he'll send me notes, or we'll get on a call and immediately start talking about what we're doing, what's working, what's not, let's adjust this, and we'll kind of debate going back, and then we'll do the next scene, and then we'll do the next scene, and then the next scene. And then we get to the end of the book, then we'll go back and go over the whole animal, just over and over and over again, tighten up dialogue, rewrite stuff. By then you've come up with a better idea for a scene. So sometimes the dialogue gets completely junked and rewritten. Sometimes that means that the new writing requires new art to be put in there, or that the pacing is funny and we have to break things up and add more things. I think that whole scene with him giving, they're on the run from the cops and they're running after these bad guys, and he's got this knife in his leg. And we thought, what a great time to have a father-son driving lesson moment in there, like how weird that would be, and constantly being aware of how that kind of happens. You can literally walk out of your house, it's on fire, and you've rescued your cat, but you've lost your dog, and it's all just chaos. And there's a kid walking across the street with an ice cream cone. There's always mundane stuff in life that's happening while you're in these insanely intense moments. And I love the interplay of that. And I know that we spent a lot of time laughing and going crazy over that. I can't remember if he came up with it. I think he may have initially done. I mean, one of the things about when a writing partnership is really going well and is egoless is when neither of you can remember who came up with what, but it works and you don't care, And I think it was him that when Cooper was finally like realizing like I'm in too deep, there's no way I can do this. I need help. I'm calling the police. I'm going to tell them what's going on. I can't, I cannot be responsible for what's about to happen. I think it was his idea to have the operator the whole time keep thinking, because he's so young and he has a high voice, that he keeps calling him ma'am and lady and slow down. He says, no, I'm not a woman. I'm like, it's not a prank call. And suddenly like this moment where he's trying to earnestly reach out for help, and he's dealing with this kind of bureaucratic, silly, half-listening nonsense going on the other side of the line, is this great moment of comedy that's happening at a time simultaneously with this great desperation. Was so fun to do. And we spent so much time recutting those pages and reworking that dialogue and getting those beats down and trying to continuously be honest about how to express his frustration and his desperation, while also still making it really funny to the reader while they're reading it, how absurd this is. So it's that kind of stuff that I take great joy in, on its own. And I think when you're done and you look at it and it works and it's alive and the story is telling you how it wants to write, and you feel like you have stopped being a master of the thing you're making and you become kind of a subject executing the commands of itself, that's when you've created something that's alive. You've put electricity into Frankenstein's monster and he's sitting up and he's asking for a sandwich. You know that whatever has happened, that's a success. You've given life to the lifeless, and now you kind of get to help be its caretaker to a lot of degrees. So it's great. It's really addictive.
Thank you for watching the Burbank International Film Festival's Real Conversations. Please make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel, and also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And learn everything you need to know about the festival at burbankfilmfest.org. See you next time.